So welcome to the season 2, Season the Scholar. And today we have with us very renowned and mesmerizing person, Professor Christian Sonne. He loves his work. He says that he is originally a veterinarian and who happens to be a good researcher, but I would say that we can replace good with great. Because he has been in editorial board of several quartile one and reputed journal, I would say. At present, he is helping the post as a editor-in-chief of environmental pollution, and also several others in a new old ages of journals. He writes about himself is that that he has great interest or insight in internal and reproductive organs, immune systems, endocrine systems, infectious disease, PBPK modeling, blood biochemistry, and with great effect, he used his global network to obtain interdisciplinary research results. And I am one of the example of that in his one bid in his very complex network. So welcome to our program, and thank you very much for accepting our invitation despite of very busy schedule. I understand that it took 1 month to decide on this date, and so the prior notice and those things, but eventually you made it, and I'm really, really happy. Welcome.
Thank you very much, and I'm very happy and very honored to be here.
Thank you, Professor. So like you know that this conversation is going to be 3 parts, and the first part says the journey part, and here we name it as a journey and motivation. So let's enlighten us about your upbringing, about your childhood until the graduation. How have you been? Whether you were a curious child or scientist side, the child by birth. What was your father? What were, the home environment? How did you incline towards the science? So these are the important ingredients we want to listen from you.
Oh, thank you very much for asking, Manish. Yeah, well, it's quite interesting because my dad is a biologist and he's been a high school teacher for the past 50 years. So I grew up with a biologist. So he took me to northern Scandinavia. He took me to Central Europe, and we were hiking and we were fishing, and especially we were bird watching. So every weekends and all holidays has been in kind of a nature holiday where we sleep in tents and simply live together in with the originals in different northern Scandinavian places, and that has been not just a natural experience, but it has been an environmental experience. It has also been a very interesting cultural experience to hike and to live together with, for instance, the Samis in the northern Lapland in northern Scandinavia. So to speak, I got the environment with my mother's milk, who was a laboratory technician. So I've used all my spare time in nature. Already from I was 2 years old, I was bird watching with my father. So that it was a home with love, but it was also a home with rules. And I learned also through our hikings that you never stop until you're done. So when I was 9 years old, I hiked 350 kilometers with a backpack of 15 kilos. And one day we hiked almost 50 kilometers. And I remember I was eating, and then I fall asleep with my head directly into the food. So that's what I've also taken with me in my adult life, that I never stop until I'm done. Yeah, so that was the kind of race I had. So quite funny. For many years, I was telling myself and others that either I'm going to be a veterinarian or I'm going to be a bike mechanist. And then people were laughing, and I didn't understand that. I was 8 years old, standing there repairing all my bikes. People couldn't understand, and I couldn't understand them. either you repair the bike or you repair the dog or the cattle or whatever. So that's basically
interesting. I mean, you know that you have unconsciously or unknowingly answered one of the last question of this interview. So this is a very beautiful narration, because at the last I was going to ask, I was about to going to ask is that whether what you would have been if you were not a scientist, and you answered it in your first question. See,
that was funny. I also grew up with a brother, and my dad, he was a resistant. My granddad was a resistant fighting the Nazists in Denmark during the Second World War. And through that kind of family life and that kind of family history, you also learn what is ethically correct, and you learn to stand up for whatever you believe in. And that's also something I use a lot today. But we get back to that, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, this is really, I can relate it, because nobody can be more precise than a laboratory manager. And so the discipline must be the second, or the name of environment of your home. Where did you, I mean, can you tell us which country, which city, your upbringing and those things? Yeah.
Huh. Did I really forget that? Yeah, that's
Yes.
that's the kingdom of Denmark, and I'm raised just outside the capital of Copenhagen in a smaller town with around 10,000 inhabitants. Yeah, next to a nice fjord and some nice forests.
Yeah. So I mean, this is really nice that since very beginning, you have been like, either I'm going to fix a bike or I'm going to fix a kettle. That is very interesting. And very nicely, you have also highlighted the first message already, just 5 minutes into the conversation, that you never stop before you are done. Oh, going to be very interesting ride of the conversation. Now you tell me about that when there will be, I don't know the education system of Europe. Of course, you can talk something about that, and how it is different from Indian education system, if you know about it. But the mainly I want to know that whether there were a decision-making time, that whether you are going for engineering or doctorate, the medical field or engineering field or arts or philosophy, before graduation, because that is the, typically we make the decision after 10+2.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, well, I had some conversations with my dad when I was raised over many years. I think we used 20 years to discuss, and then not to discuss, but I used him for some ping pong, and he always told me, Christian, you better become a veterinarian. You can always get a good job, and it is really interdisciplinary and goes across the scientific fields. So that was basically what I found out in high school, that I should not end up in a very narrow scientific field, and I should not end up in a social science or anthropology. It should be a kind of a scientific field where you were able to, like a spider, to collaborate with a lot of different people within a lot of interesting, relevant questions, where you, in the veterinary study, it's quite interesting, there you pull in a lot of information from other fields, just like you in fact do in high school, which is also kind of very broad and very interdisciplinary. So that's basically how that started. Then to the education system, sorry?
Yeah, go ahead.
And then to the education system in Denmark, I'm not that much aware of other systems, but it's kind of very old, very classical. So you have your ground school, you have 3 years of high school, then you enter. And when I began to study, there was nothing called a master and a bachelor. It was a uniform education where you got to your master, and it was not cut into different levels or different pieces. That has certainly changed when the PhD was introduced in Denmark some 20-25 years ago. Then we also started to adapt this with bachelors and master levels and educations, and so that's quite new. That's quite new to me, because my education is a 6-year uniform education, and it's not taken at different levels. Nowadays, it's very different. The veterinary studies in Denmark has been cut up into pieces, different levels, and also different disciplines, so to speak. So that's quite interesting too. When I talk to you and to my good friends in Malaysia and China, I can see that the young scientists, they start to graduate faster, or it's going much more fast than when I was graduated. And it's probably the same in Denmark today. But when I became a vet when I was 28, 29 years old, which was not unusual, then suddenly I can meet Master of Science from India who's 23 years old. So there is really a kind of a difference across countries, which is beautiful and which is really a great eye opener for me, at least. Yeah.
This is, very interesting. Nobody used to do doctorate?
So yeah, let's say from the 1950s and forward, there was one master per year who did a doctorate. That was it. So there was one veterinary per year, there was one biologist per year from each university. So let's say they made maybe 5 or 10 PhDs per year. Now it's 5 or 10,000 PhDs per year, I guess. And maybe we have started to over-educate too many people into academia. Maybe we also need people with good hands-on who can do a lot of practical, also academia, but also a lot of practical related work. So I was one of the first pools where this PhD really increased, and I think we were out of 100 vets, we were maybe 5 that were given a PhD over the years. There used to be something called a doctoral thesis, which was kind of a life thing, where you could also, if you were not an academician in Denmark, you could still hand in a doctoral thesis, which is a kind of compilation of a whole life work. And then you can get something which is similar to a PhD in Denmark. It's not a PhD is an education. The doctoral degree is more like a summary of what you have compiled throughout your life as an academician or as a non-academician. So the Danish education system, also from a doctoral academician point of view, is quite different from the most countries worldwide.
Yeah, I mean, I have, this is very deeper thought actually. I would, I don't know that whether this is right time to, but I would certainly come on what you have said, that we are producing a lot of academicians, lot of educating with higher rate to the maximum. I also know that even if PhD is a very, very traditional thing in India, because we were ruled by the UK and maybe but these days every 10th educated person is a PhD holder. This is too much. I mean, I do understand that, and I am of same feeling, but we will come on that. Let's go ahead, because of this education system, we came up with the PhD, until PhD of your journey. I want to understand that how did you choose your guide? Of course, the stream you have chosen, so, and your topic of the PhD. How did you decide that this is going to be the crux of my PhD work?
My PhD and my master thesis is quite united. So when I had to do my master thesis, it had to be in the wild. So I tried to get into raptor research with eagles and falcons in North America. Unfortunately, that didn't work out. And then by coincidence, I got to know colleagues, which are my colleagues nowadays. I met them 25 years ago. And they told me, okay, we can send you to the North Pole, or at least very close to the North Pole, and you can work on seals, and you can go on a dog sled, and you can go hunting for some months with the local Inuits. And that was very attractive, because that was very much similar to what I tried in Scandinavia with the Samis, where I had the opportunity to meet them and to learn their culture. So that was quite easy for me. So I went to the North Pole, to Thule in the northwestern part of Greenland, and made my master thesis. Then afterwards, to stay in that very interesting scientific group with the one who is my mentor, and still my mentor for 25 years, I had to make myself appealing. So I flagged up, can you see I'm a veterinarian? They already found out. And they could see that I was able to fill out the knowledge gaps and to fill out what they needed in the group. So, but in order to stay there, they needed to do some fundraising. I needed some kind of salary. So it was more or less by coincidence. To stay there, Christian, you need to make a PhD. But I said to my good friends, my good new colleagues, well, the last thing I need is to sit behind the laptop. I will never use my life sitting behind a laptop. I need to go into nature with my rubber boots, and I need to do bird watching and enjoy nature. But they said, Christian, you need to do a PhD then. And then I started to do a PhD, and I hated it. I hated reading and I hated writing. But then suddenly one day I got my first child, and something happened up here. And from that day on, it was just one big takeoff. That's how it all started. There was no plan. There was no nothing. I had no academian ambitions whatsoever. So that
I
I'm
will
sitting
come,
here
yes. So I will get back to you about that great takeoff, because still the plane has not landed. So that is, I'm going to ask you about that. But before that, there is one more important thing that I want to mention for my audience as well as for our question, is that you have done the DVM, and your the thesis title were cadmium toxicity to the seal. And then in PhD, you worked on organohalogen concentration and its, again, impact on organ systems in Greenland polar bears. Of course, you are near the native, you are very close to the pole, and you have seen this concentration. So somewhere both things are coming up. Is that by training you have done work on the chemistry part of it, because cadmium toxicity or organohalogen concentration, and always you have seen the impact on the wild animals. You also have done DSc VetMed, I mean the 7 years later. That is also, it seems like 2 years program. I want to know something about that diploma of the DSc VetMed degree. And there you have worked on health effects from long range transported contaminated in Arctic top predators. So there are two questions. One that I already asked, that what is this degree all about? And second thing is that why not human? What human has done bad to you? why you always wanted to understand the impact on wild animals rather than human? Your answer, please.
That's a lot of good questions, Manish. So to start with the first one, well, the DSc VetMed is in fact that old doctoral degrees that goes 1,000 years back in Denmark, which was something I decided to do after my PhD. So I compiled a high number of first author papers, and then I wrote a kind of a summary of what do we know about long-range transport to the Arctic and how that may affect the wildlife up there. Then and then to the question about the humans, well, this is where it becomes very interesting, because as soon as you're a veterinarian and you start to work with the wildlife ecosystems and what we call planetary or One Health, and that's simply about diseases and climate change and toxicology of anthropogenic substances, then you also automatically work with humans, because they rely on the food web. So they are on the top of the food web in the Arctic. Inuits, for example, is an apex predator, just like polar bears. So they are eating at the very top. In fact, humans in East Greenland and West Greenland, they eat polar bears. So from some point of view, humans in the Arctic are at the very top of the food system. So when we start to look at top predators in the Arctic, it's a kind of a mirroring of what is affecting human health. and we can get kind of very invasive samples from the apex top predators in the Arctic ecosystem, like killer whales and polar bears and seals and other toothed whales that you can't obtain from humans. So they are complementing each other very well. So you can get quite some semi-invasive samples from humans, some very invasive samples from wildlife, and then you can start to put together the bricks in the puzzle, so to speak. Yeah. Did that answer your question?
I mean, this is, I mean, going to be a very good cut piece for making people understand, because even very well-educated people is not able to connect the dots that how this feedback or loop is working of the animal to human and human to animal. So this loop, of course, you have answered very perfectly, and that makes me say that if I say that you have not worked for human, it will be wrong. Your work is highly pertinent and useful for the human, and you have proved. But would you like to add some more lines about this loop?
I would very much like to, because if you choose to become a veterinarian, the doors is very open to almost everything. And in Denmark, you can have another 2 or 3 years of education. Then you are also a medical doctor. If I had chosen to become a medical doctor, I would most likely be in a clinic doing COVID vaccinations at the moment, and other like surgeries and internal medicine. And I would never have ended up making all these journeys to the Arctic, working on environmental problems. So that's also why the veterinary education is so appealing to me, and probably also very appealing to a lot of other young people. But of course, it's only 1 in 1,000 that get to work with the field I work with. So it also has to do a lot with luck. But yeah, you're absolutely right. It's all looping. And that's why I love planetary health, because engineers, chemists, medical doctors, veterinarians, they are all equal important together with anthropologists in order to understand the very, very complex problems that we are facing these years in terms of ecosystem deterioration and ecosystem loss of ecosystem health and services.
I mean, one thing that stands out is that still, even the name scares me. Geological name has been always scary for me. And you worked on those points, and I have gone through your work and mostly the projects that you have been doing. Somewhere, I would say that this is your time. This is your time when One Health has been recognized. One Health has been recognized more because of this pandemic, because of the wildlife importance, that how it can, I don't want to use F word, but how it can greatly and badly or madly can affect our life. You know, that primary source of the SARS-CoV-2 or the so and so forth. So in that context, again, your work, because of you keep on getting good funds, and somewhere some people must recognize that your work is important. So that's why you keep on getting good fund, keep on getting good recognitions. So in that context, even if people, a good intellectual or scientist were knowing that your work is important. But in the context of this pandemic, it becomes really recognized. So I would say that this is your real time that your work has arrived. And yeah, congratulations for doing that. It all makes the meaning, you know, that at the end of the movie, we understand everything. So that is the same thing is happening because of this pandemic, isn't it?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And one thing is loss of biodiversity, but with the loss of biodiversity, it's also a loss of ecosystem services, which is, as we all know, quite important. So yeah, you're absolutely right that it is probably a time of my life and everyone else's lives, because I'm only standing on the shoulders of giants who have built up this research field for 50 years. I've only been here for 22 years. But you're absolutely right that it's probably the case, and that's also why I really enjoy the United Nations development goals, sustainable development goals, because I really think they nail it there. I know it's a political paper, but if we can get it out working, then it will be the foundation to solve a lot of problems. I know we all of us always mention these goals, but I think they are excellent goals, and we should do much more to reach them.
I mean, of course, we always get into the deeper in the subject, but let's get into it. Gets back to your life. How was your, you know, of course, for a doctor, always getting a job is not so difficult, but for a PhD, maybe. But so after PhD, how was your journey for getting a job? And because that phase, a lot of PhD people are getting scared of not finding a postdoc or finding a job. So what was in your case?
But I was just, again, it was just luck with my dad. It was luck with my master thesis, and it was luck with the PhD. And then after the PhD, they realized that this guy, he can write, and he can do something that we need, because he cannot just look at the chemicals and the wildlife. He can write about pathology and bone density and other important biomarkers or health endpoints. So they said, Christian, why don't we employ you in a research career position? And I said yes, and then I had to help with fundraising. That was quite easy those days with the Arctic Monitoring and Assessment Program, AMAP, which is only about the United Nations Development Goals, which they did not know when they started that program back in the 1980s. But the Arctic work is simply only about the development goals. So I was so lucky ending up a research position, and after a year they said, you're doing so well, why don't we make you a permanent senior researcher? So I said, that's good. And it was all about, of course, I was able to help to get funding, but I was also able of writing. And this writing part was very important at that point for that institute, because it was a sector research, governmental research institute, and not a university as it is today. We have been included in the University of Aarhus 10 years ago, but at that time it was a research institute who was not publishing that much, and I helped them really to gear up that publishing. If it was the same situation today, I wouldn't have a chance. Everyone is publishing so much. Everyone can type on a laptop, and everyone can program in R and work on the internet. You have to remember, when I started my master thesis, the internet was not there. So again, it's all about non-planned luck and interactions that just happened to be the right place, the right time, several times, 10 years in a row, 20 years in a row. It would never work today. I could not even plan it today. So it was just all about luck.
So do you think you are a lucky person rather than a laborious, strategically reach to that place?
You know what? I never make a strategy. I never think more than a week ahead. And the most important is I never say no, and I always believe in the good in people. But of course, along the road, you have to cut off people that you either don't like or don't, and you're not really able to collaborate with. But I'm always very open-minded and never say no. And of course, 9 out of 10 times you use time on a lot of stuff that never leads you anywhere. But that one time out of 10 times you say yes to something, which turns out to be a miracle.
Yeah, I mean, your energy level is, I would come to that when I will talk about your persona and that, but let's take that giant leap or with your baby. So when did you marry and how that leap happened? Does fatherhood changed you, or think you now I am going to fly? What happened actually?
I'm sure that a lot of dad, I guess you're also a dad yourself, and something happens when you become a dad. And when people told me that 30 years ago, I said, yeah, go out of your mind. I don't believe you. What are you thinking about? Life is not about being a dad. But as time flies, it's like, I don't know how to, it's like you have a very broad view when you're young and you're very much centralized around yourself. That you probably also are in you and I position. We're very egoists, I think. But when you're young, it's all about your emotions and your friends here and your family there and your loved ones here and your hobbies, and your work is somehow messed up there, but you just want to do everything. Suddenly you become a dad, and then two things happen. You have to take care of the family and you have to take care of your job, because if you lose your job, it will not be that easy to take care of your family. And suddenly this broad view turns into like a tunnel view, and suddenly you start not to mature, but you start to cut off 95% of your life and then just concentrate on work and family, I guess. Or some people, they probably just get stressed and leave signs. I could imagine that would all be.
Yeah, I mean, so what is your better half, what she does, and how does she be helpful? Because of course you might be leaving house for your journey and for your research. Can we go that part?
Sometimes I get in a kind of a bad mood when I start to think about that. I left house for several months per year for 25 years, leaving the wife, leaving the kids, and she was just all there alone with 3 small kids and a full-time job at a high school. But yeah, she managed, and behind us, every strong man, there is an even stronger woman, I believe. So when I look at someone who has great success, I know that he or she got family. I'm like, yeah, and you have a better half, and that better half has a major part of you having your success. That's for sure. Yeah, but I think that a lot of men, not women, unfortunately, it's very much the opposite for women. When they get kids, my God, it's so hard to have a science career. But when men get kids, it's like they can even kick off the science career, simply because there's not the same obligations for a man as there is for a woman, of course, when you have small kids. Yeah.
So science career, I mean, this last part I want to understand a little bit more, is that you said that once they become parents or there is a family responsibilities, then men tend to sacrifice or get rid of the science career and go into some different mode. But for women, it works in other way and they excel in their research career. Is it so?
Yeah, I would say in Denmark, it's the opposite. As soon as women get kids, they tend to have, they often tend to leave the science career. They don't have time. And they, of course, from a biological point of view, they start to prioritize the home and the kids and all that around. Yeah.
Yes.
But you know what? Then I look at my young fellow scientist males, and then I realize here I have been lucky again, because now society in Denmark, and probably the same in many other countries, is really trying to squeeze out men and pull in women. So nowadays, it would be very problematic for me just going 3 months to the North Pole, or 3 months here, or a conference there, and some friends here. No. Today, the men are not having the same degrees of freedom as I had. And my older colleagues who are 70 years old, they used to be away for 6 months.
Yeah, they were king.
Yeah. And now that narrows in. The next generation, you have to stay home with the kid while mom is going on a great conference or going on a great field work somewhere.
Actually, you will laugh that I had to ambition. The one I wanted to become a doctor, which is a medical doctor, in fact, but not. But I happened to be doing it with PhD. But another ambition of mine was to become a father of a son. That was my high school ambition. Because I used to love my father so much that I wanted to also become a father and be a trainer like him. Actually, I did lost him. So, but these are the time when I do remember that what a great impression I had of my father, that I wanted to become a father. Of course, I am not getting successful as a father because, of course, I have 3 kids. So there I share the thing. I do have 3 kids, and all are sons, and all are boys. So they are horrible, guys. What about you? How many you have? All are boys, or what is
Yeah,
the
one
ratio?
one boy and 2 girls. But I
Oh,
can totally follow you, Manish. And time has changed, and I'm not sure that it was. I would not say it was easier for your dad and my dad to be a father, but it was also very problematic. But I would also at the same time say that given that you and I need to take care of so much in our daily life, I feel I don't have enough time for my kids. That's for sure. So, but of course you have to show them and give them love, and you need to help them and raise them. Maybe that's also kind of good, because my kids seems to be much more independent of me than I was from my parents. I was very much following them, and I had a hard time to be independent of my parents. And I can just look at my kids and say, oh my God, they're almost already independent. They tell me what to
great.
do and what not to do. And I feel that's quite good, in fact. It seems that I will have less problems with my kids than I had with my parents with respect to become independent and having my own opinions and my own life. Can you follow me?
Yeah, very much. I mean, now this section A, I would like to reach towards the end, but there is a 3-part, 3 stages left. One is about how did you become renowned? I mean, if I would say that, and how was your like this editorial? I mean, not much people can be so open like you, that you are saying that I have been lucky. I know only laborious get lucky. You know, certain amount of work for perseverance is needed. Passion is needed to be that lucky. At the end of the day, we do name it or label it lucky out of being humble, out of being yeah, that's what we should be. But there must be some great consistent work behind your thing. But how did you think is that your journey to from a Christian of Denmark of Christian of the world has turned out? See, I put a good
Yeah,
question, good way.
yeah, that's nice. That's very nice of you. And we could say the same of you and many others. Well, it started many years ago. And you said exactly the right word, what I would like to say. It's all a matter of being humble, because we're all just humans. And I know I got a lot of enemies in science, in the science world. That's for sure. A lot of academics don't like me because I'm too open-minded and I'm too humble. And when people start to become not that friendly, then I tell them they're just human beings and are having an average intelligence. And of course, academians don't like to hear that. They really want to see themselves as the big boss, being the most fantastic scientist over everyone. But that's not the case, I'm sorry. Most scientists are good, average thinking persons. And as soon as you start to show that around yourself and to be humble, then you start that journey. So to have this fantastic network with so many lovely scientists around you and with good editorial positions, it's all about being humble, and it's all about showing that you're not perfect, and it's all about asking the most stupid questions. As soon as you ask the stupid question, you get the elephant in the room out, and people start to realize, oh my God, this is just a human being. Now I also want to engage in this interesting discussion. So with respect to the editorial positions, it's all about a very good friend in Canada. He has been being my collaborator for more than 20 years. And it was by coincidence at a conference 3-4 years ago when I had a good talk with him about what it is to become an editor and how we do it. He gave me some inside informations, and it kickstarted it all. So there was, again, no plan. It was all about having the right question at the right moment at the right time.
Oh, let me ask you that how to ask a stupid question. Let me ask this a stupid question, that how to make a stupid question.
How to make a stupid question?
Yeah. What do you
Yeah.
mean by that stupid question? I mean,
Oh, yeah, sorry. That's something we say in Danish. Well, when they're sitting 100 people or 10 people in a auditoria or around a table, and no one understands what the man on the scene is talking about, and no one dares to ask, because then you just show that people think you just show that you're stupid. And then, of course, I have to ask the stupid question. And it's like it takes all the air out of the balloon, and everyone is like, shoo. And then all the interesting discussion starts, because then suddenly people dare to ask questions and dare to engage with their interesting points of view. Because
so how do I interpret your this point of view? Is that you probably trying to say is that being original and being not pretending, being not scared of asking the right question, or if it is not known, let me ask it, is the key. I mean, we don't need to, or being original is most important thing. That I would not pretend that I am not getting it. If I am not getting it, I will ask, please tell me once more. I am not getting it, right? Is it right way to put it?
Exactly. And a lot of people don't do that.
Yes.
Yeah.
They just
Right.
This is,
and then also I must say that there is a lot of big egos in academia, and there's a lot
of big
egos.
Egos.
A big ego, and there's a lot of conflicts, and you really need to avoid it, and then just get rid of the people you don't seem to be able to collaborate with. One good thing now and then, not always, is also to have some women in your network. Most women seem to soften up the tensions, at least at meetings that might be between men, and they often seem to loosen up their discussion, so to speak. It's kind of buffers now and then. So that's another good argument for have more women in science. Aside from, of course, they often think in a different way, which is extremely important, to be together with people that don't think the same way as yourself. Yeah.
Of course, I can come to the next time about this in later section about this, your Canadian friend, what the secret he has told you. But that I will ask you in your philosophy part or suggestion part. Here, because it deals with your life, this section. So I am going to ask you, what has been the biggest challenge in your career so far, or research journey?
The challenge it's hard for me to answer. The challenge is maybe that I have a bad habit of not saying no, and I tend to maybe work too much and put too much energy and life and soul into science. But that's also when it all becomes funny, and that you get less stressed, in fact. So maybe that has been a major challenge, not to put too much into it. Can you say that?
Yes. So your challenge has been, to sort out or prefer, give the preference of the work, or be selective. So being selective is your challenge. That how to be selective, because even if actually until very recently, there was written in my wall, never say no to a work. So that where also I correlate with that, but recently I changed it because so maybe I can relate what you are saying, because it's a big challenge that when we really want to put our best and we want to do it, we want to contribute it, but somewhere, sometime, maybe, and in doing so, sometimes we harm ourselves. So sometimes we should learn when to say no, and that is the critical challenge. It has been critical challenge. I changed it, but still I say yes to a lot of work. But yeah, that's how it is.
And to say yes to new challenges, I find very important. But,
yeah. So learning process, saying yes to new challenges is the key. Yes. But in administration, but I would come about this administration part. You must be in faculty selection or recruitment process or those things, maybe involved in those process. So that part I would come. Now, this is the second last question of this segment, is that what has been the most productive period in your research career? If you can particularly say, of course, you have already said the taken off after become father. And at the same time, I want to know, or we want to know that who or what has influenced you the most so far?
So my productivity it has been stable for the past 20 years. I'm still engaged in a lot of projects, and of course your publication matrix of course changes, but in terms of productivity, yeah, it has not changed over 20 years, I'll say. I still work as much and publish as much and enjoy to write. Yeah, so in fact, yeah, it seems to be very steady. Then you had another question. What was that?
This was that what or who has the most influence on you?
Yeah, there is historically, there's only been one aside from my dad, and that is one of my nowadays colleagues, and he's still not on pension, so I'm still enjoying collaborating with him. So he has been the most influential, and he has paved the way forward for my career or life or what you say in science. Then of course, as time flies, there's new persons getting into your scientific career, but he is definitely the one in my career. But then a high number of others have been incorporated since.
Yeah,
I think that must be quite the same case for many. You also mentioned your own mentor, with whom you kickstarted this great program. So
yes.
Yeah.
I know that you are. I mean, we would have loved to hear that name. That who was that exactly the person? And maybe down the lane after 5 years, somebody would have searched, oh, who was the man who influenced this great scientist? So, but you can keep the name with you. But I do believe there needs mentors. There need such people in our lives at several stages. In fact, what the journey starts with everybody's father or mom. And I would say that mom has been a little bit more generous not to take that place. And always it is father that becomes hero in our heart. And or maybe at that time they were the breadwinner, or for what reason or not. But later on, again, wife comes and they influence you most and they care you most. But again, we sometimes we don't acknowledge the supreme, right? So far we have not been acknowledging God to have given us birth. So that's why we are not acknowledging mother and wives. So that is what I am just saying to my audience, that here we are talking about the professional influence. We are talking about a direct professional influence. So if we are not taking the name of mom and wife, please, they are much above. So that is what we are saying. Moving to the next question is about the teaching. How do you take teaching? I mean, describe your teaching experience. How do you feel about teaching? If there is a class, do you still do preparation? What is your teaching philosophy?
That's quite interesting again, Manish, because I'm in a full-time research professorships, meaning that I have no teaching obligations, but I help to teach in a number of courses at my own university, Aarhus University and Copenhagen University, and also on the University of Svalbard which is part of Norway, close to the North Pole. And teaching is like seeing yourself 25 years ago and then going into a room, and teaching is like, I want to put something very special into the head of these young people, and they need it to, I will give them an experience they'll never forget, because it's not about giving them a lot of knowledge. It's about showing them what are the most, in my case, what are the most important components in planetary health, for instance. What challenges do we see for our environment at the moment? So I'm never digging into details. I'm there to give them one hell of a theater, so that when they go home to their family or to their friends in the evening, I want them to sit at the table and tell them about perfluorinated compounds in Gore-Tex clothing, or perfluorinated compounds in alufoil and in pizza boxes. That's the kind of message I want to deliver. All the details they can look up in the books and in the papers. I'm there to give them the broad view and to put together some of their things they are puzzling with. And that always leads to some very interesting discussions, because then you also start to provoke a bit, and you really make them reflecting critically and thinking across a variety of science disciplines and personal experiences.
Great. Actually, a very passionate answer. I am really happy the way you describe. I also think that way. And nowadays, when with the advent of Google and internet at your palm, actually everybody's palm, earlier we used to see the future of our, I don't know whether you know about the palmistry, but the lines can tell what we are going to be. And that is called palmistry. Do you know that?
I've heard about it. I've heard a little about the lines, but not much. No.
Yeah. So, but now I say that earlier, even if it is true, even if it is true, people could have seen only their life on their palm. But now this palm can show you the world face. Now with this, you can see the stock market going. You can see anything that is, for that matter, is happening. So with the event of this Google and internet of, suddenly I have seen in the last 3-4 years, boom of Facebook users in India. Because now every lower middle class or lower class have the mobile internet access, and so on and so forth. So in that case, it becomes eventually, so we don't need to struggle. We don't need to struggle for those deep knowledge. We can just search and anything can come up. So the role of teaching has to change, has to be the way you have told. That still, if there is a lot of resources or information are there, there should be a guru or a teacher who can connect the dots very quickly and put it in an order in a brain and say that this is how it should be arranged. And this is how, so a kind of, that housekeeping. I don't know that this is making any sense or not. But yeah, because you have given such a nice answer that I felt I should add a little bit of it, because I am also a passionate teacher. And so, thank you very much.
Manish, that's a very good way to tell it. And then just one thing before you go to the next question is that with respect to the education of PhDs that we just touched upon in the beginning, it's not that I think that too many are educated, because you cannot over-educate your population. But what's important about knowledge, we need to feed as much knowledge as possible to the younger generation. That's very important. Whether it should be as part of a science career, I'm not sure. But yeah, that's why it's so important to educate people to tell them the broader picture. Also because what you read on the internet and on Facebook, it's a lot of secondary.
Yeah, secondary information and all that. Yeah. And I have seen that your topic that you taught is also very interesting because toxicology and environmental, Arctic medicine, Arctic biology. You've been at the pole. Tell me how it is to be at pole, near the pole.
But the first time you fly there, it's like you're falling on your knees and then you start to kiss the ice. It's just, it's just amazing. What's most interesting when you go to Arctic Canada and Greenland, and for that case also Northern Scandinavia, is that it's not a very uniform ecosystem. It's like talking about India or Africa or Australia, where you have huge longitude, latitude, altitude changes. It's exactly the same. You can go to the North Pole and there's ice and -50, but you can go to the southern part of Greenland and it's +30 and there's no ice during summertime. So of course you go to the Arctic, you think, oh my God, it's ice all over. You have the Greenland ice cap, the inland ice, and then you have all the sea ice. But that's not the case. Of course, it's also not the case anymore because of climate change. It's all melting. But it's so interesting coming there because the Arctic is not just the Arctic, it's the subarctic, it's the high North Arctic, and it is a great variety of ecosystem changes along that gradient. So you have boreal forests, you have tundra, you have ice, you have open sea, you have sea ice, etc. So that's what was a huge eye opener to me. I was so lucky to travel almost all over the whole Greenland when I was a student. And that was really an eye opener. I thought Greenland was Greenland, but it is such a variety, and that goes across the Arctic. That's why the Arctic is so interesting. It is highly variable.
That makes me think that God has made you born in the right country for your research. Because you were born there, you could do something which was really, you are equipped to do that. So you justified the country in which you born through your research.
But you're right. And you know what happens now as the climate is changing around the globe, the ecosystems and the wildlife and all the living organisms is changing. And I'm wondering if that is a huge threat to a lot of science disciplines such as Arctic science. And I wonder how the next generation or the next generation of Arctic scientists would be. It is reshaping and changing a lot, and I really hope that there will be someone to take over from me, but you can't be sure it will be in the same frame or in the same context. The world is changing. Yeah.
My next segment is about, this is solely for what this cisgender scholar is made. Of course, so here we will talk about something which can be directly useful for other people. And they say that, so going with that, sex part B, troubleshooting lesson and philosophy. Here we go. What is your daily work motivation?
What is, sorry?
What is your daily work motivation? Why do you wake up?
Why am I so thrilled about opening my email box? Yeah, that's a good question. Why? That's probably because I have so many different projects and different people and different personalities and different aims and goals in my network. That is the variety and the way the work has evolved over the past 4 years. That's what's really making me fun and happy, because it's not just doing the same Arctic science over and over again. It has evolved into collaboration with people from Asia, with people from India, yourself, for instance. And it has opened up my eyes for whole new science disciplines. That's what's making my mornings good when I'm opening the inbox and see, okay, what has happened over the night in Asia and different places in the world. It is renewable. It is all the new stuff that is evolving all the time. If it was just the same scientific discipline for 50 years, I would die. But it is because it's so important to say yes to new people and to new challenges. You can always leave it if it's not fun, or if you don't like the people, or if you're not good at what you're doing. Yeah.
If I would say,
yeah. 5 years ago, I was thrilled about seeing if some of my papers were, accepted, or if some co-authors had replied. But but I'm also getting old, so I need something new, and the new is also to get new friends and to get new inputs that way around from different personalities around the world.
Actually, here I would, because you use the word old, and I say that you should have been old, but you are not old. So I would like to correct it there. More because of two reasons. One is that, just your physical appearance says you are not old. But the more because the energy that you still possess, the ideas that you still possess, the thrill that you still keep. So those things makes you not old. So here I would like to correct you very humbly. And here I would like to tell my audience is that Christian has very distinct way of replying email. And it's always a standout. I would say that his emails are so stand out that, I think that is one of his trick to make win the collaborators very soon. I don't know. We are going to talk about that later. So second part of this is that what excites you is the simple normal question comes. What are the challenges that you face every day, being a researcher, being a scientist, and so on and so forth?
The main challenge, is that what you asked about challenge again?
Yeah, daily challenge. That on the daily basis, you have to get it.
Yeah, the daily challenge is like for everyone else, it is the 24 hours we have per day, but it's also to be able to push forward many different projects simultaneously, which is very challenging and very fun. But I guess what's driving all this, despite it's a large challenge, and I mean, I'm not unique at all. There is young people who are 15 years younger than I am, who's having a much better editorial and publication profile that I have, because that's what the next generation can. It's like your son is always taller than yourself, and it's the same in science. Who you meet when you're going up the career is also the same people you meet when you go down the career. So you better treat people nice, and you just have to live with that the next generation will always become much greater than yourself. That's just how it is. Then to your question, well, the main challenge is to push forward the projects and to communicate. I use, as you say, a lot of time to communicate with people, but it's not just blah, blah, blah. There's always a meaning with the communication that, like for the papers, stuff up all the sentences and make them high impact, high novel, and make it a great reading. It is the same with communication. I archive so many emails I don't want to answer, but I always answer the emails that I want, and it's always a challenge to make them high impact while being short. And because it's also, I like to stimulate the receiver on the other end, not just as you maybe mentioned before, not just to have new collaborators or to increase the collaboration, but because what is more amusing when you look around in your collaboration landscape than to see people growing. And yeah, they can grow you over the head in 5 years, and then what? What do you lose? Nothing. Be humble and then just let people grow around you. And it's like seeing your grandkid grows, I guess. Must be sitting in the chair, just looking around and be happy about that, right? But that is the challenge. The communication, I'll say, there's a lot of communication in science, and it was not the same 25 years ago. When I started as a master student, my supervisor, and I never mentioned names, because if I forgot some names, people will not be happy, Manish. So that's why I don't mention that many names. But they wrote 2 letters per month, and they received 2 letters per month. They wrote 2 papers per year. And then they submitted the paper, and 6 months after, they received the review comments by letter mail. Then they write the manuscripts, and 2 years after, maybe it was published. So communication 25 years ago, before the internet and before email, was something not better, not worse, but something very different. So it's important to use time on communication, but you have to control it the right way. There's also a lot of other communication portals, as you know, than just emails, all these chat systems that I know a lot of scientists they use nowadays. Yeah, but I'll say communication is also a great challenge, because it's a vital part of having your projects, right? Yeah.
Actually, you hit the nail so rightly on the head that it's gone too deep. Actually, you have, I don't know, what should I say? I am stunned with how you have pointed out the daily challenges. Let's talk about this a little bit more. The format of this talk is that we will talk, people will learn by themselves. And if they want, if they wish to watch. Communication is challenging. You have already told, and I can tell you as a researcher myself, I can tell this to audience that he is 1000% right. So communication is challenge, because many times, and especially the written communications, that it is not going to be true is that what is the writer's perception or feeling is directly translated into the reader, because I write with some feeling, but my words is being perceived by that person feeling, isn't it? So it means that interpreter will decide what he wants to think about that line, not the writer. And that is why one movie is great for a person and worst for somebody.
That's a very good way to say it, Manish.
So this is, I mean, many times I go, I need to watch a movie on Netflix. I need to pamper myself. Let's think which movie is good. And then I will say, go to the Rotten Tomato. One is saying completely garbage. Another say it is very classic. Who are you? So they are also reviewing the same movie in 2 complete ways, the same kind of paper. Sometimes we get it, oh, this is horrible. Somebody says it is excellent. Of course, there it is not much. But the interpretation is very challenging in communication. So my question to you, Christian, is that I myself is just struggling there. I have seen that you have been really very crisp in your writing, not very formal, because it takes a lot of time. Because anyway, I wrote Dear Professor Christian, and you wrote Here We Go. So I mean, you cut short everything. Kind regards, you write hugs. Or so in that case, tell us something, how to overcome these challenges. One more challenging is that when to open the email and when to reply. How to manage the email, not only that this email I'm going to reply and this email I'm not going to reply, but it is much more than that. Tell me about that.
That's a very good question, Manish. That's a very good question. So how to manage your inbox? But I must admit, Manish, that it's also a matter of prioritization. So 8 or 9 out of 10 emails I never reply, because there's not a lot to reply to. So I'm very good at just archiving. And then if I see a great prospect in replying an email and I can see that it will make the snowball running faster and grow, then to stimulate the receiver in the other end, I always reply. And normally I only reply emails if I have something positive to add. In a few occasions, I have to write emails where I don't have something positive to add, because maybe you get a conflict or you get tired of someone. But otherwise, I only reply emails with happiness and positive attitude, because otherwise you just start too much wars. So one way to do that is to look at the scientific landscape and to understand that scientists are among some of the most competitive people I know. It's like Olympic sportsmen, sorry to say. And you really have to understand that when you write an email, you are a collaborator, but you're also a competitor. So you really need to have the spirit and the positive energy to grow in the receiver. So that's why I have stopped writing angry emails, and I've started only to reply positive emailing. Yeah, because as you say, it's a very complex thing, and you have one meaning with your email, and the receiver has a completely total different opinion of the movie or the email they receive. So that's why I only make positive emails. But I also always write very clear, if it comes to collaboration or papers, how I see it. So as soon as you pack your message in a positive attitude, you can always write exactly what you want. You know, when I comment papers, maybe it's sometimes a bit angry, a bit short. But first of all, I can do it because it's always with a positive attitude, and I know what works at the end. If you don't tell people exactly what is wrong and how to write it, for instance, when it comes to papers or to project or analysis or to applications, then they can't use it for anything. Then it's then you just waste your own and other people's time. So if you start out positive, then you can be very short and very strict to the point without being rude when you have writing messages. I mean, but if there is a conflict, I always pick up the phone.
Yeah, actually, one person told me you are an entirely different person when you talk and when you write. he used to say that I'm very scared of your email, but I love to talk to you. So, you have given good answer. I would really say I am going to use some of them, or I would say most of them, because stopping the angry feeling then and there can help a lot. If I'm not in a good mood, why to destroy others' mood, right? If I am angry, I'm not going to spread happiness for sure. But the key is that when we become angry, we really want to write. We want to err. When we are happy, we just want to smile and we just want to laugh. But when we are angry, we want to make noise. This is human. This is maybe a wild animal also might be doing. So my question to you is that, one is that controlling at the level of anger. How do you manage your anger? How do you manage your emotions? I would say, not only anger. And then one is outcome. Feeling I may not be able to control it fully, but a output I can control.
Yeah, I have all my ups and downs. Maybe not on a weekly basis, but on a monthly basis. I can also have 1 or 2 days when I'm in bad mood because I don't feel that I get too many projects home, or I don't feel that my papers are accepted or whatever. But I think it's what I've learned from my mentors and also from myself is that it is very important to separate personal life and professional life. When bad stuff happens, you really need to say to yourself 2 things. It's just work. It's not your kid or your mom who has died. It is just work. Okay? Secondly, leave it. Delete that email or delete that message or leave that room or leave that person and archive it. Deep away. Go for a jog, go in the fitness, whatever you find funny, go fishing, go bird watching. I don't know what you're doing in your spare time. And secondly, bad emails, archive them. Delete them or archive them. Maybe go back to them after 2, 3, 4 weeks. And then you'll see that by the time your mood has settled, you're not angry anymore, and the problem is either solved or that person just don't deserve your attention. That's what I'm doing. But especially, this is just work. Come on, leave it. It's not a disaster if something doesn't go by the way you want it. And then especially, I've stopped answering emails with potential conflicts. It's only if they are not aimed at me, but at someone who I trust or who I really like in my network. Then I become angry, but then it's on behalf of another person. And that's much more easy to control. And then the receiver understands that something is wrong and that person then have to behave. I never enter these conflicts anymore. Also because they probably just reduce your life length expectation.
Yeah, I mean,
the more you laugh, the older you become, I'm sure.
You will see, now you can understand that how, I don't know whether the audience, how many people are watch, but I do get a lot benefited of conducting this program. And here it goes that a direct and such kind of genuine answer. I think nobody in the professional life have time to ask Daniel or the Christian, do you have something on it, you know? And Daniel is having such a great mechanism and great clear-cut understanding. So that's where it is important to let people know, and also let myself be benefited, and let a young generation being benefited, because people forget favor very easily, but people do not forget pain and do not forget insult, and do not forget anything bad that you have done. Even if you say, oh, sorry, I excused you, but I am not sure how much from I deleted or my recycle bin has removed it. So it is very critical to be not be on the wrong side. At the same time, you yourself answered very nicely that you do take a stand, because I feel timid when I do not raise for right. If I see that this is right happening and somebody is messing around, then I feel like, no, sorry guys, I hardly care anything. I need to speak out. And you said so very nicely and very perfect way. You articulated it very nice, and I would say that people should practice it and try to know. And I can tell you that one thing that I am going to practice, that you said, always say it is just a professional thing. It doesn't matter. If it is not affecting my salary or my line manager, it is fine.
Yeah, it takes some years to learn, but it's a strategy that really works. Yeah.
In this context, this has been now my favorite topic, because you know that now I am turned into a managerial role also, that I sanction leave of my colleague. So here there is two points. One is that how to give doubt is something which always get raised without any reason. We always doubt because that is our animal instinct in the human, that we doubt, is there danger? We doubt if this person is good about me. We always doubt good thing. We do not doubt it is negative as negative, that, oh, this is a snake, but it may not be poisonous. We never doubt that, that this is a snake, it must be poisonous. So that is the way we think. So how to give the benefit, we say benefit of doubt, you know, how to give that benefit of doubt to our people, that it seems like he is not thinking for me, but indeed they are. Many times, many remarks made, we take it negative, but it is not negative. but
Yeah,
we
so
react in hurry.
yeah, I think this with doubt, it's very important to be able to doubt, especially in yourself, because I've seen too many people that have no doubt in themselves, or they believe so much in themselves that they just say yes to everything, and yes, I can do it. And either they are overburdened, or they are not able to deliver at the end. So I think it's good that you doubt in yourself, but I also think that you also, the first thing is that you need to say to yourself, yes, I can. You do it? Yes, I can. And I can always do it. But it's also important to doubt, because at some point you really reach the limit of your skills. And then it's very important to doubt. So I think it's like a blade with two sides. Doubt is something that you also should use very actively. I often say to people, if they give me a question and I'm in doubt, I say, that's not something I know. Or at least I say, this is something I have to look up and read about. So when you, in some occasions, it's important to doubt in yourself and to say that you doubt and that you don't know, or that you can't do it. But the first thing is, of course, and that's also a great difference in men and women. I've learned over the past years that a lot of boys and men, they never doubt, yeah, I can do everything. I can conquer. I'm, world of the king of the world. While women are much more in doubt of themselves. And it's really about finding the balance, because being in doubt is also something that you should and could use actively as a senior researcher. It's very, very good and important that you say to yourself and to us, I'm in doubt. I often do that. I have no clue. You have to ask someone else. But then, of course, step forward. If you're not in doubt and that you believe or think that you maybe can help or do it, then, of course, try and do it. But it is a balance. And you need to be honest to yourself in order to use that balance correctly.
Great.
If you're not honest to yourself, you will always get into problems. And the only one who knows if you're in doubt or not, or should be in doubt or should not be in doubt, that's yourself. No one else is able to.
Yes.
When you know this is something I can't do, or this is something that I don't have time for, then don't do it, or say, I don't know. Ask someone else.
Yeah, so doubt is necessary, but at the same time, we must know the timing of it. And let's go to the publication part. What is your advice, or how do you deal to the, I mean, there are different 2-3 kind of advices. One is that how to write a good impact journal paper. You have already told that how a better wording or editing can increase the impact of the work. And at the same time, but it's also important how to choose the journal, which journal to target. Do you use bottom to, the top, bottoms up? No, top down model, that you go for the high impact and then go slowly down? Or you always advise that, or you want to target bullseye, just go around that range of the impact factor and then try to that? Or you want very precise targeting and getting success on that? But if it is getting rejected, how do you deal that? So these advices, I am not saying that whenever you want to use first person in your vocabulary, you can say so, that I do that. Otherwise, you can also say just in general as a just advice.
This is a big question. We can use hours on this. So to start with my childhood, my mom learned me one thing that has been a vital part of my scientific career when it comes to writing. She learned me, or told me, when I was 10 years old, we could choose between different classes. Someone could learn to knit, some could learn to sew with the sewing machines, and I learned the 10-finger blinded system.
What?
You know, when I write on a laptop, I use all 10 fingers, so I never look at the keyboard. I only look at the screen and on the text or just out in the air, meaning that
that is called 10-pointer. What is that called?
10-finger blinded system.
10.
So when my colleagues tap with 2 fingers, then I tap with 10. And what that has given me is that I never put the cursor somewhere and delete something. If there is a misspelling or something is wrong, I just delete the whole line, because it takes me 2 seconds to write a line in Word. So yeah, I know you're laughing, but what that basically means is that I can write 5 to 10 times faster than all my colleagues, or than 9 out of 10 on 99 out of 100 colleagues. Meaning that basically you can write your immediate thoughts directly into the document. It's almost like using a dictaphone.
Speech. Yeah.
I'm sure that one day you can just talk to the computer and it will write it all for you. But that has been vital for me, because it means that you can really write your thoughts very fast directly into the paper, and you don't have to use a lot of time on it. So that's one thing. The other thing is that I have always, since the scientific world is very competitive, for some reasons, even young researchers are sitting there, ooh, if I can just invite 1 or 2 co-authors, then I get maybe more publications than my neighbor PhD student or my neighbor scientist. Ooh, yeah. But I was thinking very opposite. And I've probably been too generous with my co-authorships in my life. But the more people you invite, the more help you get with the manuscript and the more vital inputs you get. I know that people don't like that you invite, but I always invite people that I believe can help me making a better and a faster manuscript. I know you're not allowed to do that as a PhD student, but as soon as you're a scientist and you believe that your co-authors are of merit, then of course you are able to invite them, especially because when you do the credit author statement, one of the most important thing is to tell who has been helping writing up the manuscript, the data handling, writing up the manuscript, etc. Those you can invite as co-authors, not as blind passengers, but invite those people that you believe will help to increase the quality of your written work. Also people who has not been helping to fundraise or to do laboratory work, because the writing is vital. You're not a scientist until it's published. Everyone can be a researcher. Everyone can stand at the road counting blue and black cars and put them into a histogram. Everyone can be a researcher, but you're not a scientist until it's published. And it has in fact always been like that. So don't be too generous, but be so generous that you also are generous to yourself. And ensure that you invite people that you really believe or know will help you to increase the quality of your manuscript and the ability of publishing it in a good place. I think that's vital. And then go learn that 10-finger system. It is 50% of my career. That is the 10-finger system. And it sounds so stupid, but I know it is. And then when it comes to choosing the journals, everyone has their own matrix and their own way to do it. So I probably just submit to a low number of narrow journals, because I know they're within the scope, and I know the editors, and I know how the editors are thinking. And then I know how and where it should be published. I know you are doing the same, Manish. I know the way that you publish, and that you also aim for the journal, which is of course a good quality journal, but where you also know the editors and all know that it is really within the heart and the scope of the journal. And that is the most important, high quality and then within scope. I don't know that much on impact factor. I know that they do in Asia. Journal impact factor is very important in Asia. In Denmark, it's not that important. I know people claim it's important, but when I evaluate applications, I don't care that much about where people publish. I care if the applicant is an active academia and scientist, and that he or she is an active author. But whether they publish in very high impact journals or not is not of great value to me. It's rather the evaluation of the project and the science itself. And from an author and a scientist and a editor point of view, I also know that there's not necessarily a good link between impact factor and quality of scientific quality. There is to a certain range, but then when it comes to Nature, Science, Cell, Lancet, etc., of course it needs big data and it needs some good modeling, but it's not always better science compared to a paper in Stone.
Good.
Yeah, but this is my personal point of view. There has become too much focus on high impact journals, if you ask me, and unfortunately the funding is also going there, meaning that you will have a very narrow funding and science landscape. If I was a scientific minister in Denmark, I would do exactly the opposite. It's like the lotto. You never know when you got the bingo. So you need to spread out the scientific money in order to grow all science fields, because then suddenly you have bits and pieces here that will turn out to be of huge advantage, maybe in a year or 2 or 10, 100 years. Why put but now I know we're tweaking into something different, but why put all the money in so few baskets instead of spreading out your investment? I think that is more wise, because I like, for instance, ancient genomes of dinosaurs and how people they conquered North America, South America. But why put 95% of the financials there? Why not spread them more out? And we all know what Science and Nature, for instance, like. It's the historical modeling. It's the space, and it's the ancient genomes and etc. But it's also kind of narrow, if you ask me. There's a lot of daily here and now problems we also need to solve. So I'd like to spread out the financials, and I like to spread out the publications, so to speak. But these are my personal thoughts about science and United Nations sustainable goals. And I think there has been a tendency over the past 10, 20 years where there has been too much focus on specific disciplines, which then also attract the majority of the national fundings. Yeah. So
I mean,
that's my strategy.
what a great monologue, I would say. And I didn't stop it because I want to edit this part and put it as a separate video, that Christian views on publication or writing. Now, from your statement, I'm going to ask you is following. One is that when you see the CV, does the quality matters to you or quantity matters to you? Because you said that you want a researcher to be active. So impact factor is not so important, but in anybody's work. So tell me about something about quality and quantity. Second question is that about what is the heart of a paper? I mean, data or interpretation or writing. Whether it is comprehensive approach that as an editor approach to you, that somebody has used 3-4 methods, or it is the newness or this of the concept that hits you most, or it is the number of the sample. Oh, so many sample, so many data, let's have it.
Those are really good big, broad questions, Manish. So when it comes to the quality, when I evaluate a researcher, you have of course been in the same situations. Many have. I think in order to be able to evaluate the person, it is both a matter of quality and quantity. In the beginning of a career, it's often a matter of both quality and quantity. As you go up the steps or go out the line or go out the board, then you're in a position to more choose yourself. So to evaluate how active a young researcher is and to evaluate the quality, in fact, you need to dive into the papers. It's not just enough to glance the CV. Then, of course, I look at if it's international journals or if it's more local, national journals. They should be international, I think, and of course, peer reviewed. Whether they are in Stoughton or in Nature is not of great value to me because it's all scientific discipline driven. So if you're in genomics research, you publish high impact often. If you're in environmental research, you publish middle impact. And if you're in veterinary, classical veterinary research, you do not publish in most journals having a impact factor above 2 or 3, maybe 4 or 5 if you're lucky. So it's all a matter of your discipline. It's all a matter of your research, of your network, and then you have to dive into the actual papers. I more look at how active the researcher is. Mostly I look for, in fact, the first author manuscripts as the first indicator. If I should evaluate you, it would be on lots of other stuff, of course, and the same for me. Then when it comes to, that was the impact factor, etc. Then when it comes to, what editor. Was the other?
Yeah, as an editor, how do you?
As an editor, yeah. Because, Manish, you know, and you also know that because you have been an editor yourself. So we have different tools behind the scene that also reflect quality and originality. We have a lot of plagiarism tools, which tells me exactly what other papers have used exactly the same words in exactly the same sentences in exactly the same sections. So when you're an editor, you evaluate manuscript. I evaluate a manuscript based on 15 or 20 different endpoints. And it's not something that I think about endpoint 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Did I forget number 9? No, it's something that's in your fingers and in your eyes. So you look at the plagiarism report, which tells you exactly if there has been too much copy paste from other papers. I look at especially the quality of the figures, because the quality of the figures is often reflecting how much time and how much energy and how much thoughts has been put into this story. And then, of course, I look at the outline of the paper itself, and if the authors have put a lot of time and energy into formatting the paper, so it follows the guide to the author, and so it follows the scope, and so it is not a too long discussion or too long results section, but that it is all aligned together in a nice layout. It might seem stupid, but misspellings and punctuations and large and small capitals, etc., is also an indicator to me. If there's too much of this and too much of this and too much of this, it is a indicator for me that the authors have not been detailed and not been using enough time on their story. And then maybe it's the same with the data and the laboratory work and the research itself. So it is a kind of an overall indicator of how much time and attention and quality and heart and energy they have put into the study itself, not just to the writing phase, but to everything. Then I'm aware that there is a language barrier, but that I do not pay too much attention to. Then I put a detail to the associate editor, please have an eye on the language, or they just find out themselves. But there's no excuse not to follow a nice layout and a detailed energy and a detailed attention to your own work. And that you can easily see in a flawed Word document. I hope this made sense. So there's not just a single answer to this. You know the same, Manish?
I did get, most of them are really as an editor. We have been practicing. And the way you have told is also very much. But here I just want to know about the language that you mean. You said that you do put attention that whether the punctuation wrong and those things. But at the same time, you said, but language you don't care much.
Yeah.
So what do you mean? Can you clarify?
I know why you're asking this question. Yeah, sorry, I was not that careful. Yeah, it is that maybe people from Asia or people from not so much India, but people from maybe Southern Europe, Asia. I should not sit here pointing fingers, but people from Denmark, people that are not native English speaking. Of course, we do not write as good English as native speaking Frenchmen or Englishmen or American citizens. So that's what I'm thinking about, that we do not write perfect English. And that's also why there is, it's a good idea either to invite people who are good in that as a co-author, or to have good colleagues looking through, or to have it proofread by some of these editing companies. Yeah.
I want to understand the two aspects of it, which you have nailed it. And your language part, I did understand. And that I want to tell my audience that Professor Christian Sonne is really nice editor. I mean, not as a handling editor of this, editing of a manuscript. He gives that touch that many people I don't send to you because I feel that it is not for you to go through it. Yeah, you can tell me otherwise also. But yes, I have seen that how your editing has changes the perspective. And I have seen that I want to also tell audience that I have been working. Now it is, we are going to be completing second year. Since this pandemic, we started working. And I realized that many people don't even dare to say that, oh, here we can improve a little bit further. So that is your impression of the Christian. But
I have happened to be somebody who even tried to revise those titles. And the more surprising was not only your touch that makes the even simple looking sentence or paragraph or editing. You edit it very ruthlessly, I would say. You are a very lovely person as a person, but when you edit, you are very cruel. You edit it out a lot. That is my perception. But you are ready to be even commented on that precise or hardworking editing. And I remember that I suggested that no, this title is not working and it should be this way. You were the first to say that, yeah, I guess you are right. So that was also very much something which will remain in my memory. So I understood. Do you remember
I remember that title. Yeah, yes. I remember. Yeah.
And eventually we could publish ESNT later, and no, just ESNT viewpoint. And so here, I already told my audience is that you are a great at editing, you are ready to listen. And so way of saying things can be changed. So that language may not be much critical, but critical is that how carefully you are writing. If it needs a punctuation or if it needs a, so by determining, because as an editor, the outcome is in front of us. That figure is in front of us, this table is in front of us. We never gone and visited their lab, what the hell they are doing in their lab, or whether that is well-managed data or not, quality control and quality assurance is there or not. But these are the two indicators who can really talk to you that, look, man, these data are not trustable. So how much thinking has been given to prepare a table, prepare a figure? How much care has been taken up? This is very easy to understand, and with more experience, people are getting more easy to, more quicker. They do it. But the question here for Christian is, nowadays people think that more network, more co-author, more impact, because more citation. Because let's suppose I have a 20 people on one paper, and each people cite one time. This is a 20 citation already. It will reflect on 20 profile differently. It will reflect on maybe 20 universities differently. So whenever there is a keyword, it will be on Arhas University, of course, my institution, my collaborator institution, my Japan institution, so all come up. Do you agree with that?
If I agree with the matrix, the way it comes up and is calculated, yeah, there is a very important thing to discuss here, because when it comes to, I was talking about the age index and impact factors now, and publication matrix, manage that's the case, right? Again, it all depends on the disciplines. So I can of course see that your paper is having a great I don't know if your paper will have higher citations and the greater impact the more co-authors you have. But the content for sure should, because hopefully they have all agreed to participate and give it maximum impact from their own point of view. So yes, that's what good. But what I have realized under the pandemic, which is also new to me, when I go into Web of Science, which I have not really used it that much over the past 10 years. But now I go in critically and evaluate the high cited papers and the hot papers. They also seem to be in specific categories. I can see that the chemical engineering is really attracting a high number of citations, like very high numbers in very short time. So again, the impact of what you publish, again, it is of course a matter of the co-authors you have, and thereby the writing and the direct impact of the content. But when it comes to publication matrix and age factor and high impact cited, high citation research is what it's called, it's more a matter of your research field than your actual impact on the science field, if you ask me. So these matrices is to some extent biased. I'm not sure if I've really answered your question, Manish, but it's more complicated than just the number of authors and impact factor and the impact of your science field of your own research. It's also a matter of the science field that you publish in. I'm not sure why, but it is. There's not that many highly cited environmental and hot papers compared to chemical engineering papers. I think it's much easier to become highly cited research in specific fields. Yeah, so it's a bit biased, and maybe you should not look that much at impact
so just
factor.
It happened to be another day we were talking about this, and somebody came up with this. So I wanted your really view on it. And you actually very balanced. Today you are really balanced. Your performance is, that every day we can't play same form of football or cricket. So today you are in form, I can tell you, because very precise, very nicely. And you didn't get time. I also want to tell my audience that you didn't get time to go through. So you have not prepared. It is not a prepared question answer session. It is just on the, so it means that you have been leaving this, and that's why it comes very nicely. You can able to articulate it very nicely. So far, it's been excellent. That what is your advice to someone yet to decide if he or she should go for PhD?
If you should go for a PhD, you really need to be sure. I'm not sure how it is around the globe at the moment, but it should not just be for the paycheck. I have, over the past 5 years, seen too many PhDs going for the paycheck rather for the PhD, because there has been some difficulties in labor and getting a job or a permanent job after your master degree. So definitely you really need to go for that PhD. You really need to think it's fun to sit writing, to dive into the statistical courses, to go in the laboratory, to be on off Monday to Sunday, 3, 4, 5 years in a row, to be able to pay critic to yourself and to receive criticism, to evolve, to collaborate, to be half psychologist and half scientist while doing your PhD, because it's also a matter of how you interact with colleagues and how well you perform in a group. So it's much more complex than just to hang your PhD degree. It's a matter of being able to tick off all these boxes from the very beginning. If you're just uncertain in 1 or 2 boxes, please don't go for that PhD. It might turn out to be good, but in too many occasions, I've seen that it has been one big struggle and not fun at all. At the end, it should be fun, because you use the last of your youth years in doing your PhD, because after that you get a family and you grow up, and you should be able to look back at your PhD and your youth and think, whoa, that was fun. I want to do it again.
You are really passionate. I am. You are one of the very closer, equal amount of passion like me. I'm also very much gets excited when I talk about these things. What is your advice to someone who is about to complete their PhD?
You need
because
to look
that
ahead.
is a critical moment. Yeah.
That is a very critical moment, because already a year before you're about to finalize your PhD, the last year, you at the same time need to look out for postdoc positions, and you need to be able to maybe even start funding your own research together with some senior researchers, send in applications. So the last year of your PhD is not just a matter of your PhD, it's also a matter of paving forward your upcoming postdoc or researcher position. That's very important, because otherwise you just stand there at the end and no one is maybe looking for you. So you have to look out for yourself.
Actually, really nice, because this is a workable formula, because you have given number to this. It says that quality is a lousy idea if it is just a quality thing, because quality can go. She is beautiful. She might be very beautiful for me and no beautiful for anybody. So here you have given a quantity to it, that 1 year before. Maybe you have to this one, and wow, you are so great at putting the impact line. I was thinking that what will be the tagline of my post that I had interviewed Christian. So many taglines. I cannot put now. And every time you give me the more impact taglines, that now you said nobody is looking for you, but you have to look for. Oh God, you should be a dialogue writer, you know.
Manish, I hope that we will soon meet, maybe at a editorial board meeting at ReAcTT or something. That could be fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, but I can tell you that this is really been great, because you give that impact in your word by saying that this kind of the taglines or those impact lines. Now, what is your advice for becoming a good teacher? And what is your advice for becoming a good administrator? So very crisply we can go.
Yeah, so become a good teacher, you really need to think about, it's like going in the theater. The people who are watching you, the audience, they need to get a good experience that they will never forget. Don't be nervous. Don't go into too many details that you can't go out of again. And make sure that you keep some high impact messages that you deliver. Simplify it. and ensure that when they go home to their family and to their kids and to their parents, they want to tell during the dinner what they experienced during your talk. Otherwise, you won't engage the public and you won't engage the students.
Great. Now I would go to the last part C, and there I would be very informal about we can relax, and then we can say see off for now. But before that, just the few more philosophy our audience would like to know is that how to find what to research about. I mean, how to and yeah, and what are the things that can bring you funding? Of course, and you especially when you have already described that funding agencies are really bad. They put a lot of money to very shrink and very narrow people. I mean, the very not narrow people, narrow area, or the sometimes big project, big fund, and other ideas no fund.
Yeah, well, that's my personal experience and personal opinion, and it's maybe more political driven than it's driven by my insights to science. But I just feel that it's like a football team. They can't all be, you know, at the very front making goals. You need someone to be behind at the goal, and you need someone in the defense and on the midfield, and then in up front to make goals. So that's also how it is with science. You need someone around the landscape to be able to pave the ground forward, to be able to engage and to find solutions for whatever is out there. And right now there is a whole lot out there to be solved. So I think that if you want to go funding, you of course need to find some society. I mean, green energy and ecosystems is up right now, but you really need to find something that you think is interesting to work with and is fun, because otherwise you will not make a good application. Make a very clear application. Don't have too many details. Always think about that it is most often non-specialists looking at your application. So that's very important. Then of course, talk to your colleagues. Look around for good papers to cite and to pay forward your idea, but it is all depending on the call. Read the call very, very, very careful, and make sure, like you for a journal, meet the aims and scope, meet the call text. Don't send out too many applications. Only send those you really believe in, and really put some energy and time into the figures and into the text. That's quite important.
Yeah.
But most of all, follow your interest and your heart. Otherwise, it's a waste of your time and everyone's time. Yeah. Did that answer your question? It was not.
Yeah. Very much. You never go. You are always bullseye. I'm sorry. I keep on saying this is the last one. But how to keep a good research network? And is it necessary?
I can only talk personally about myself, but it is really like having a good crowd of good friends. If you do not treat them well, and treat them well is not the same as being nice. If you do not really tell them what you believe about their work or their manuscript or their data handling or their figures or whatever it is, their application, then you are not a good collaborator and a good friend. So always be harsh, but pack it in a nice attitude, so you can keep your good friendship with your collaborators. Because at the end, science is also about being social together with your collaborators, and that can be on social, like on Zoom, but also going to conferences in the good old days. So I think it is like treating your collaborators like you will treat good friends. You will also tell your friend if you think he did something stupid, and you really, and then you need to give your maximum input and impact. Always pull out your soul and your heart into a written text. Otherwise, people will also just get tired of inviting you, because the next step is that the paper will be submitted and accepted, and then everyone is happy. And as soon as you have tried that a couple of times, that group of network is really being, you know, pulled together, and then it can last forever, I think.
Wow, you are a dictionary of high impact sentences. Like now you said, now you said science is also about being social. Wow, I will use it. And wherever people can know, I can refer you that he told me. Science is also about being social. It's a big, great meaning, you know, that what is more amazing in this conversation is that you can say very simple, short sentences like highlight of Elsevier papers and say everything about your outcome of the paper. So this is one of such line. Of course, one of many lines that you have given tonight is that science is also about being social. Recently, one person was saying that, you know, the science is such a big, huge and thing that we always contribute a little to it. Whatever the big we contribute, but it is always a little in the context of the geological time scale or in the human history. And you also started this conversation saying that we are standing on the shoulder of the giants, and it is always a the son is going to be taller than the father. So see, the dots are connecting. Now movies seems to be meeting their end. So this conversation is also, yeah, great.
And then Manish, it's also important to understand that you have collaborators because they are complementing each other. You don't want, if you have a football team, you don't want 10 people who can just be at the goal, right? You want the hardworking students. You want the one who is good at fundraising. You want the one who's good at statistics. You want the one who's good at graphics. You want the one who's good at writing. I mean, you need a team. You need a football team to be able to make a good paper.
Yeah, that's what I could do it. And that's why this is the process optimization. And so this year, maybe last year I published 50 and this year it is around 40. So because of this process optimization, because I know, I identified over the time, this student is really, or I give the training to all, but somebody learned one particular thing much better than other. So now I put it all together, and then sometimes I take help of great scientists like you to make the impact going out, and sometimes like, okay, correct myself, or when I am in doubt, I really seek for collaborations and take the opinion before really sending it for the opinion. What excites you about your work? Travel, new thing, network, friend?
Yeah, networking.
Networking. Tell me what you like to do when you are not working on research.
Working.
If you are not working,
no,
you are in the pub.
Fishing.
Fishing. But fishing is your work. You can take the fish and say, oh, what happened to this? Let's write a paper.
Sometimes I think about that when I'm fishing. Okay, and what contaminants are in this fish? Yeah, crazy.
Yeah. So, but fishing is your hobby, and we can see with your fish in your social network, you are always with fish. By the way, fish has been lucky to you?
Sorry? What?
Has fish been lucky to you? Because in India, whenever we are going to start a good work, we always try to see a fish and then go for the work. Or sometimes eat the fish and go to the work. But fish is very good omen for us in India.
Yeah, so, yeah, and I would say fish is a very important food source worldwide.
Yeah,
and ecosystem service. Yeah.
How do you handle pressure?
How do I handle
pressure? Work pressure, family pressure, demand.
Oh, pressure.
Yeah.
I go to the gym every second day. Exercise.
Every second day.
1 hour every second day. Yeah.
Not every day.
No, I don't have time for that.
Do you do some yoga?
No, never tried, but I know people who have tried it. they find it good also for the spirit, but I like hard physical workout. Yeah, it
Great.
releases a lot of muscle signal hormones and a lot of good stuff. Yeah.
What if things do not work?
What things do not work?
What if things are not working in your way?
Then I leave it.
I never thought such a simple answer for it. But actually, I wanted to intend that how do you manage your anger or your response of your body or mind when things do not work?
Yeah.
But
I
this is
simply
a,
leave it.
yeah, simply leave it. Or you don't get frustrated that, oh, this didn't work, I should try again.
Only with one application that I've tried to submit 10 years in a row without funding, but otherwise, no.
10 years in a row. It is a lot of persistence. Okay. Research is never ending. When do you think about future? When do you think you will ever retire?
Oh, from the work?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, but work is just, it's just temporary. I mean, work is a physical place, but this is also work when I'm sitting at home. So nah, it will never end. I'm always working up here like any other scientist. So work is just the part of the network. I mean, that work is global now. It's not like 25 years ago when you sat at your desk. Now the work is everywhere in spare time while you're dreaming and sleeping and while you are at the physical work. And yeah, work is integrated now.
Great. Very nice answer. How do you balance family life and professional ambitions?
I don't.
You don't need to balance?
I don't balance it. I just do my work. And then when my wife gets very mad, then I try to balance.
Very nice answer. That when I am sick to that, please come. Where are you? Then only, otherwise it is mostly taken care of by your better half.
Because then you just get stressed. If you need to balance everything, it doesn't work.
Wow.
If you don't do your research 110%, and at least for me, it doesn't work. Then I'm not happy. Then I just get stressed about the stuff I didn't do. And then you just stress the family. If you get stressed, the family gets stressed. And then it's better just to take care of the job. Then maybe when you're dying, then you will think, okay, maybe I played too little with the kids. But life is just one big way of prioritizing, I think. And you cannot fulfill the needs of everyone around you. It's just impossible. And if you don't start with yourself, you're not happy. And when you're not happy, family is not happy.
Wow.
But maybe it doesn't work for everyone else. But yeah.
No. This is a kind of, I would say, very close to moksha, or very close to the, that super understanding of it. So first thing is that both answer. What you do in work don't work in your way. So you said leave it. And also this one is that no need to balance it. Just give your 110% to your work, and family will get advantage of it.
Exactly.
Something you are not good at.
Programming in R. That's if there is something I should do better or just learn to do, then it is to program in R. I would love it, but I don't have time.
Okay.
Okay, that was very basic and very strict to the point. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not good at surfing.
Yeah, I am not good at flying plane.
That's what I mean. Yeah, there's tons of stuff I'm not good at.
Your three major strengths.
There's so bad connection. My three
major strengths.
Three major strengths. That's my good mood.
Yes.
And my my what do you say, when you are empathic
Mm,
and empathy and ability of expressing my feelings.
great, great. And we have witnessed it very, very right tonight. You can express your thought very nicely. Now it is very rapid fire thing. Your favorite author?
My favorite author?
Hmm.
Everyone. I don't have any.
Favorite food? Any
Fish.
particular Indian? Or
Oh
fish?
yeah, yeah. Asian food, if it must be that broad, yeah, for sure Asian food, and that of course also includes India. Yeah,
Favorite food, drink?
red wine.
Favorite book? So if
No
you
one.
don't have a favorite author, so it is less likely to have favorite book.
Yeah.
Your favorite movie?
Don't have any.
You watch movie or not?
I watch movies now and then, sometimes on Netflix. They are really crappy, but yeah, I've seen tons of good movies. I cannot say which one is the best. No, it's impossible. Can you answer? Can you answer all those questions yourself with the best book and the best movie? And no, I can't. It's like, what is the best paper you ever read? No idea.
Okay. Yes, it will be very difficult to choose. What is the best actor or your favorite actor? That I can certainly say. But over the years, it changes also.
Yeah. I have
So
no
any
favorite.
Hollywood actor or female or male?
No.
What is your mantra of life?
Treat everyone else like you want to be treated yourself. I know it's a well-known mantra, but that is really treat people like you want to be treated yourself, because don't treat people bad. Why should you?
Great. Any quote, because you have given a lot of quote tonight, but any quote that you love so much?
Any quote?
Yeah, any quote, this to this, any sentence that catch you and that you really, yeah, it is recalling is little bit, but anything that comes in particular in mind? Okay.
I'm boring when it comes to all that.
No. Any bucket list? Do you want something that still needs to be done? Like I want to go to, you are already on the pole, so you cannot say I want to go to the North Pole. So anything that you...
Yeah, I would love to visit. No, there's so many places. No, I can't manage. There's so much out there that would be fantastic.
Yeah. Well, last question. I told you that very last question you already answered. The very first question is that what do you want to be what you would have been if you were not a researcher. So you already said mechanic and those things. So here here it ends the great conversation. I am really obliged and thankful, and today I can tell you that more often I will get back to you for my work, and also as a collaborator, it is a very important meeting for us, because the first time we are seeing each other face live or with motion. So that is the great thing, and what a personality you emerged. I was thinking, of course, many editor-in-chief are very senior people. You yourself are very senior, but your energy level, your passion, or your empathy makes you to connect everyone. And you connected to me. I am sure you will connect to most of our audience. Thank you so much.
I can only say the same, Manish, and I look forward to seeing you one day in person.
Thank you.